full. Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. The Boston Red Sox are world champions. Game over, series over, and the Red Sox are world champs again. And so are these fans. It hasn't happened at Fenway Park for 95 years. The Red Sox are world champions.
Boston organization has been well run for a long time now. From the top on down, here comes a 1-2 pitch. Red Sox win the World Series. 5-1 the final tonight. And the best team in baseball wins it all in 2018.
The Red Sox have won the World Championship. The Boston Red Sox beat the Los Angeles Dodgers 5-1. They win the World Series 4-1. And the Red Sox become the first team in the 21st century with 4 World Championships. Can you believe it?
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Pesky Podcast. We are here with episode 21. I am here with my man, DC, and we are here with, yet again, a guy we got to know really, really well, Mr. George Sutherland. Guys, how's it going tonight?
Good.
Not too bad. How are you doing?
A lot better than what the Boston Red Sox have been playing.
Yeah, we're struggling.
Yeah.
That's an understatement.
We have lost 6 of our last 8 games.
Yeah.
We have had cold bats. We have had horrible defense. We have had bullpen disasters. We have had starting rotation problems again. And we have had mismanaged situations. So we have a lot to go over. But before we get to the Red Sox, DC and I are going to talk a little bit about our weekend we had when we went to cover the WooSox and the Rail Riders. And we had some great interviews. We had some great conversations. DC, let's talk a little bit about that first.
Yeah, it was a good time. I got to go to 2 of those games. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do any of the interviews. Tuesday, we kind of got our feet wet when we went for the first game. And then Friday, I couldn't make it. But glad you and Chase got to interview some guys. A little salty that, Bobby D, kind of gave you the cold shoulder. Still a little salty about that, even though I wasn't there. But that was fun, cool to get into that atmosphere. Obviously, I want to get into the press box next time and enjoy some of that AC. Because we were there for a couple innings the last game, and I came home with a pretty solid burn on my arms and my neck. So glad to get that first burn of the season out of the way. So no, it was a good time, man. Had a really good time. Something that I never really got to experience. So. And
we became really good friends with a outfielder, Narcisco Crook. Great guy. Gave us an interview while we were there. And, man, he's going to be on our podcast this Friday coming up. How excited are you, DC?
Yeah, I was pretty bummed out. I missed that, but glad you guys got to talk to him. He seems like a really cool dude. So I'm looking forward to chatting up with him and just talking about his career and his plans for his future.
Yeah, we talked to Narcisco Crook. We talked to Fitzy a little bit, and, well, man, I learned a little bit about him. Of course, I sit there and got pumped and called him Ryan Fitzpatrick instead of Ryan Fitzgerald. But he was cool. He was rolling with it. And then he was like, it's okay. Like, honestly, Patrick's my middle name. So it was like, I was a little blown off by, like, the whole accidental. And then all of a sudden, like, the dude's name is Ryan Patrick Fitzgerald. So it's like, it fits right in there. But, man, I can't wait for Friday when we talk on Narcisco. The dude is he's a great guy. Like, he's so positive when he's talking. He was talking to Chase and I several times before, we actually asked for a couple moments of his time. And then Sunday, when, all 3 of us were there, he went and seen us there. He gave us the nod and stuff like that. So this dude's a great guy. I can't wait to have him on. So now that we had the good parts, let's talk a little bit about the bad. Dude, what is up with these Boston Red Sox? Like, overall, it is absolutely horrible.
Oh my God,
George, let's sit there and start with you. What are the things that are really standing out to you, man?
Oh, so many to choose from. To me, it's the defense. In game one of the doubleheader, Kike made two brutal errors in the field. And the one reason that they weren't talking about it afterwards is the Red Sox came back to win the game. I mean, we can talk about this in a little bit, I'm sure, but, they DFA Tapia today and basically said to Kike, you're back in center field. Okay. Shuffled Duran around, gave him a vote of confidence and stuff like that. But, and then after they do that, they pinch it for Reyes in I think it was the 7th today, and they brought Kike back in the infield. I'm like, oh God, why did you do that? You just sent him in the outfield. And he made a couple of brilliant plays in the outfield, stole a home run away. But yeah, he became a super liability. I don't know what's going on. It's like it's almost like he gets penned up and he gets so nervous when he's at short. He tries to, as I said, when we talked last time we talked, he tries to do too much. And every time he does that, he becomes a real detriment to the team, which is too bad because he's a likable guy. And, he can play the position. Something's going on. But it shows you the real problems they have up the middle right now. And, the other real bad, of course, was Chris Sale having to go out the other night. Things were starting to look up and then not so much. For me, defense and Chris Sale going down were the two big ones. I think they kind of go hand in hand. Is that the team is they're floundering right now. They're at 500. That's what they are right now, and maybe even a little bit worse, which is too bad because 2 weeks ago they were riding high. So
yeah, I gotta agree. I think if I had to pick, not to piggyback it, but I agree. I think the two biggest things were the defense and obviously losing Chris Sale. I mean, obviously in the middle of a rut, you don't want to lose your heart and soul of your pitching staff. Maybe in the heart and soul of the whole team. That's a gut punch in of itself right there. Obviously hope that it's nothing too crazy or too serious. But yeah, the defense, I think they had 2 errors in 2 of the 4 games and then an error in the other game. So 3 out of 4 games they had of the Rays, they had an error in. And then that little league home run that, basically was the deciding factor last night. That was terrible. I mean, the one bright side was, Bayo gave up those 3 runs in that one inning, but he wasn't getting hit hard. It was light contact, unlucky hit. So, I mean, the only thing that kind of concerned me. Yeah, he got unlucky.
Contacted to death.
The only thing that concerned me was after the first inning, his swing and miss stuff was, kind of non-existent. But overall, he looked good, other than just the bad luck. He's been a positive note, over the last few starts of his. He's really turned it around. It seemed like he got his command back a little bit. But if like I said, I agree with you. The defense losing Chris Sale, that's a gut punch right there. Hopefully, like I said, it's nothing serious because that's going to hurt a little bit, especially with the inconsistency in our pitching all around right now.
What worries me is that nothing has come out of either Sales camp or the Sox camp about what's going on. Now Monday, unless they release it late tonight, probably Tuesday. They honestly, they're probably looking at a number of things, and it's been radio silence. So that kind of concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely not good news. I think I agree. I'd rather hear something rather than nothing as far as that.
Yeah, if it's bad, just let it out and say it, and then the fan base can move on and go, okay, he's hurt again. We can move on. Don't be honest. If you can.
Yeah, Twitter will be a dumpster fire for a couple weeks, but
Oof.
we're kind of used to that.
As I said, just turn it off and don't go through it. It's just not worth the effort.
Yeah.
Well, one of my big things that I sit there and like, I read it on Twitter. Like, we are one of the worst teams with errors this season with Kike playing short. I think he has like 13 errors this season. And if we would take him away, I think we jumped down to like the fourth least amount of errors if we would take him off the team. So that's got to tell you something overall right there. Like, you can't sit there and have a guy playing shortstop that it's just not in his portfolio. You can't force a guy that's I understand he's athletic, he's great, but he has a center field arm. Like, would I be okay with him being over there on a second? I'd be a little more comfortable, but I'd rather see Kike on the bench being a utility player where we can plug and play him as we need him right now, because he's a liability when he's on the field.
I just don't see how he's at shortstop if Reyes is playing. Why isn't Reyes I'd rather have Reyes at shortstop than Kike at second.
Well, they pinch hit for him. So
yeah.
This goes after they said, you're done playing shortstop, and then they pinch in for Reyes, and Valdez is not a second baseman. I'm kind of surprised they didn't. Valdez is not shortstop. I'm kind of surprised they didn't bring Arroyo over to short. I mean, he can't play. He's not really going to hurt you. He doesn't have the range, but he's going to play a smart play. But,
I don't think he's going to try to do too much.
No, he's not. But he knows what he is. I mean, and he's defensively, he's a solid player.
Absolutely.
So, he won't show much flash, but he'll make the play he's supposed to make.
Yeah, and then you got Chris Sale. Man, that was a killer right there. Like, the dude is pitching his ass off, and he was putting up amazing numbers for his last couple starts. So it's like, what do we do? Like, I'm so glad they decided, or I don't know if they decided yet, but they have not put Corey Kluber back in the rotation yet.
Crawford.
So
Crawford's in the rotation now.
Yeah. So I'm glad that they went that route. Pavetta has been lights out in the bullpen, so far. Like, yeah,
he was kind of shaky.
He had a rough outing today.
Well, before today, he was doing really well out there, and he kind of like turned around a little bit from going and saying I'm a starter, I'm not a bullpen guy, to now that's he's doing really well in there. He was a little shaky, but then again, AC's, in my opinion, not doing the best of managerial decisions. Like, the doubleheader, he brought Kenley back out. Like, what was he thinking? Like, what were you guys thinking when you seen Kenley coming back out? To try to in the ninth again. I
couldn't believe it. Kenley's not the kind of pitcher you can go to, 5 hours later and say, "Hey, I want you to do this again." He's a one day. And the other thing is the dynamics of baseball today. Double headers are very, very rare. Mm-hmm. And a lot of years ago, a pitcher would do that. No, this guy's a specialist, and he's out there to give you the one great inning, and that's it. And to call him 5 hours later was very much the wrong call.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I think that was it's just irresponsible. Especially with the reports not too long ago, wasn't he having back tightness? I don't know. I just bring him one game, and then, like you say, 5 hours later, bring him for another one. Not only just the physical side, but the mental aspect as well. You're getting yourself pumped up. And then you have 5 hours off, and then you're expected to come back. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just thought it was a little irresponsible. Very confused when that happened. But, yeah, I agree.
AC had backed himself into a corner, too, DC, when he used Martin in the first game. Because Martin would have been the alternative in the second game, but he used him in the first game, but didn't, obviously wasn't going to bring him out again, but he had no qualms at all about bringing out Jansen. And it was like that was a head scratcher.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that I was a little curious about, and I was like, why didn't he do it? Like, you have Sheriff, you have Bernardino, but why wouldn't you sit there before you bring those guys in? Kluber only pitched an inning earlier that day. He's a starting pitcher. He could have got to an inning, maybe 2 innings, to bridge the gap to bring in Sheriff and Bernardino. Like, I don't understand why you had Kluber in the bullpen to use him.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to use him, you might as well just DFA of him, and get somebody in who you are going to use. I agree. I didn't really think about that.
I think I think that they've lost confidence in him, and they put him out there, I think, initially to see what they had. I think they were in a situation when they felt that they could come back and win the second game, and I don't think they trusted him enough.
Yeah, well, in game 1, Kluber pitched 1 inning. Wink pitched 1 inning. You didn't even use Pivetta. So you had Pivetta sitting there, a former starting pitcher, and he has been doing really well for you. You didn't have to bring Jensen in the 9th. So that's just something that really baffles me a little bit about, I always say in AC I trust, but there's just sometimes you have to sit there and wonder, why are you bringing Henley back in 5 hours later?
Yeah.
So, I'm sure we all sit there and seen that horrific defensive encounter we had yesterday. And no one wants to talk about that. Nobody.
No.
But George, let's start with you on that whole from Verdugo not going in for the ball quicker to Valdez being out of place and not ready for Wong. Like, that was George. I'm gonna let you take this. It's horrible.
Yeah, Verdugo might have charged the ball a little harder and then would have had a closer play at the plate. Mm-hmm. The thing that got me was, I don't know what Wong was thinking about when he decided to go starting run out towards second base and then go ahead and fire the ball. And, Valdez should have been closer to second base. He wasn't. But, Wong is a smart player, and why he decided to do that and then, kind of like do he was trying to throw a sweeper, to second base, and it just went out into the right center field. I don't get it. It was like an entire mental collapse. People just weren't where they were supposed to be. And Wong, he's played well, and he just had a brain freeze, and I don't get it. I think it's the symptomatic of something larger going on with the team itself, and that was, like you said, I heard 100 people call it a little league home run. Yeah, it is, and it's embarrassing too, because that was a winnable game yesterday. Okay, they definitely, that doesn't happen. They're still in the game, and you got to believe that they would have tried. They would have played hard to come back. But I think that was the other thing that just took the air right out of the balloon right there. Just there was nothing left after that.
Yeah, DC.
Yeah, I was just it reminded me of Little League, man. It was terrible to watch, frustrating. I'm pretty sure I turned off the game, shortly after catching a little bit of that, out of frustration, and then I turned it back on shortly after. But that was embarrassing, man. All the way around. Just I don't really have too much to say other than that, to be honest with you. I hate to be short about it, but it was just bad baseball, kicking the ball around the field. tough to watch.
Well, we had a lot of bad points yesterday, but we had a personal favorite good point. My man Verdugo was doing the damn thing yesterday, and he carried it over today in his defense, where he stopped by the pesky pole and robbed a home run instead of hitting a home run to the pesky pole today. Verdugo 2 doubles and a triple yesterday. Man, those wheels were flying. And then him and Kike both today robbed home runs.
Back-to-back innings.
Yeah, Kike robbed one going into the bullpen. Verdugo robbed one when he came and visited us at the pesky pole. Like, that's just ridiculous. And DC, well, how impressed are you at Verdugo so far this year? He was in a small slump, but it seems to me it's baseball. You're going to have your hills and your valleys, and it seems to me that you know, he's back on his high horse yet again.
Yeah, obviously, you know how I felt about him before. I've changed my mind on him. He's, you know, I mean, I'm happy that he's proved me wrong. Obviously, like you said, he's hit that little small slump there for a little bit. I'm not expecting him to go out there, hit 300, 310 or anything like that. I just want, you know, 280, you know, give us 15, 20 home runs, you know, 70 RBIs, you know what I mean? You know, 350, you know, on base percentage. And his defense makes up for it when he's slumping as well. So, the only thing that, you know, that gets me with him is he'll make, you know, have mental lapse on the base pass. And that's the only thing that scares me. You know, he's made some costly errors, you know, late in the game, you know, stuff like that. But he's gotten better with that, you know, as the year's gone on. Overall, I've been very, very impressed with him. Contract, you know, he's up, you know, he wants that extension. And obviously I'm fine with, you know, giving it to him if he, you know, continues to play like he has. Like I said, when he's down, at least he gives it all in the field, and that's all you can ask, especially, you know, I mean, obviously he played a part in that play last night, but, you know, he's going to go out there and give it his all. And that's all you can really ask from a ball player, especially, you know, baseball is weird. You can, you know, they always say, like, you can fail 7 times and, you know, succeed 3 times, and you can possibly be a Hall of Famer. So baseball is a hard sport. Sorry. Had a little tickle in my throat there, but yeah, overall, man, very, very impressed. You know, I can't really say too much about him. He's been, you know, probably one of our most consistent pieces this year. So, you know, I'm pretty happy to have him on our squad. You know, I know my opinions before were kind of sour, but, you know, I'm a man. You know, I can eat my crow, and I can admit my mistakes.
Hey, I am so glad that I finally got you on the Verdugo train.
You know, I'm 1 foot on. You know, I punched my ticket.
Hey,
it's moving. The train's moving, and I'm on. I'm just getting my footing.
Me personally, I would love if he continues the way he goes, so I can sit there and see him in Seattle. I would love to see him be an all-star. I would love to see a few, like, in my opinion, Connor Wong has got to make the all-star team. Like, hands down, that defense he's had is
yeah,
ridiculous.
It would just be tough. I mean, I think Rutschman will start. Yeah, I mean, that's not far-fetched. I can see him as a reserve, you know. I'm trying to think. I'm having a blank on American League catchers right now, even though I play a crazy amount of fantasy baseball, so I should know this.
He may end up taking somebody's place on the Oakland A's because there is nobody qualified. You know, maybe they'll put an exception in for that.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
But George, what are you thinking about Verdugo's play as of so far?
Going into the season, I felt he had a lot to prove. You knew the talent was there, okay, because he showed it when he first came here, and he went through these streaks last year where you saw it and then you didn't. But you know, he came in more in shape, clearly, okay. I think coming out of the WBC, I think he was energized. All right. He wants the extension. You know, he feels as though he's a good to very good outfielder that can hit. that's true when he plays like it. Okay. And then what many times last year we I'm sure DC you'd shake your head and go, what are we doing here? I think he's turned it around. And I think AC challenged him in the offseason and said, hey, buddy, pick up your game because it's there for you to take. You got to show it. I think he's done it. I'm amazed that he's been as good at leadoff as he has. I never saw him as a leadoff hitter. I always pictured him somewhere, depending on the lineup, 2-3, maybe 5-6, but not as a leadoff hitter. But I think he's done an extraordinary job. I'm a foot and a half on the bus. Okay. I want to see what we've seen to continue, but yeah, I think he belongs in Seattle. I think he's, absolutely one of the better outfielders in terms of, at least for stats, on both sides of the ball. So I'm there.
Yeah. What are your guys' thoughts on, hopefully we can shore up our defense really soon by July? Trevor Story, Duvall was in a rehab stint, and he was just smashing the ball the last 2 games he played. Trevor Story should be back sometime around July. So what are your guys' thoughts on them coming back? Do you think those 2 moves will shore up our defense? And who does not stick around when they come back? Don't forget, we also have Mondesi, who's able to come back. We haven't even heard anything about him recently. DC, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps. I do worry about Story's arm at short. Obviously, they're not going to rush him back until they think he's ready. I did see that report today. I'm sure you guys did, that Cora didn't rule him out, doing DH, but that kind of murkies up the water a little bit even more when you think about it, as far as who goes where. As far as who goes down, I'm not sure. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of a little thrown off with the Tapia move. So I'd have to kind of look at it, and do some research on it. I mean, yeah, we're gonna have a crowded. It's a good problem to have, though. We talked about that in the spring training. Getting Story back's huge. I think getting his bat, back to where it was in Colorado would be a huge, uplift for us. I don't know. I don't know how that pans out, with having him back. What do you do with Duvall? And if Duran, keeps it up, I know he's kind of started trending downwards. He obviously, like I said a million times, he wasn't going to hit 350, 400 like he was. But what do you do then? Do you platoon those 2, or you split time with Duvall at DH with Turner? Do you spell Costas a lot more? I don't want to say it because I don't want Twitter to eat me alive, because I am a fan of Costas. Do you get him at bats down in AAA? I think at this point you just kind of ride him out. I truly don't know the route they would go. I don't know the route I would go, to be honest with you. There's just so many variables that could play, take play. There could be an injury to Arroyo or somebody, hopefully not, but by the time Story's, back. So I don't know. Right now it's too early to tell as far as, what I would do. I hate to be the cop out there, but I don't know what they would do. Like I said, there's so many injuries could happen, but that would shore up the defense. But I think we also need to worry about our starting pitching right now. With Sale, that's a huge question mark. So yeah, our defense need to be shored up, but we also need to get some healthy arms. Whether that's bringing up some guys from down in AAA or hopefully Stroman, like I was saying from the last podcast, make a trade.
Yeah, let's sit there and talk a little bit about Casas and Jarren Duran. I honestly sit there and think that we go overall and you can't send Casas down.
Yeah.
It's 3 months. We can't sit there and have him overall to go through and work on things. You can't. His
OPS is right there too. He's just not getting the hits, but he gets on base.
You can't sit there and send them down. That's telling the kid the first 3 months of your career in the majors, for a full season makes or break you. And the same thing with Jarren Duran. You can't send him down to get at bats because you're going to shatter his confidence. Let him keep playing. Maybe possibly use Jarren as trade bait to try to get us a starting pitcher like Corbin Burns. I said
the only thing is that scares me with that is I feel like at this point they're trying to make him part of the foundation, whereas Duvall he's on a 1-year deal, right?
Right.
So you're really sacrificing the future. I mean, obviously, if you want to make a move for now, you got to sacrifice the future. I just don't know if that's the route they would go. But I mean, that's a very good point. You feel like a move has to be on the horizon, if everything kind of lines up the way they are with, healthy, if everybody stays healthy leading up to everybody coming back. I don't know, man. But I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
Oh, no. So you can't do that. Man, that like we talked about in spring training, like, dude, that middle infield is so crowded overall. And it's crazy how we go and do things, and like we got Arroyo, we got Mondesi, we got Reyes, we got Valdez. Valdez can go back down. I'm not sure if Reyes can go down. We got Yu Chang. So George, what's your ideal? Trevor Story's back. Mondesi's available. He's back. Who is your ideal middle infield when we have a full healthy Red Sox team?
I think for the rest of the season, playing Trevor Story at shortstop is out of the question. I think he's coming back. He has, as I said, this is the Tommy John alternative. Let's not destroy his arm. Okay. I think that's why AC was saying today he can come back as a DH. I think he'll be okay at second base. He doesn't have to, do that, the deep hole, deep in the hole, toss over to first base. Mondesi, I mean, obviously he's a wizard at shortstop. You just need to get him to hit. I think they're going to try to piece it together, quite honestly. I think second base they can cover. I think they like Reyes. Defensively, he's shown that he did make an error today, but I mean, he's shown that he's reasonably steady at both short and second base. Valdez is a second baseman. I think he does go down. I think that, of the two that they, Valdez is kind of a one position player, so he's going to box himself in. Yu Chang, if we get the WBC Yu Chang back and the Yu Chang that was on fire right before he got hurt, okay, great. Because he can play all four infield positions, and I'm sure if you put him in the outfield, he'd probably do a respectable job as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we really need a shortstop. Okay. Because right now, I don't see Story there. And until Meyer's ready, we need a shortstop and a good one.
Not to cut you off. I just read. I actually forgot all about this because I was curious about it. Unless he came, I didn't see anything new. But Alex Cora said last week Trevor Story will be the shortstop, which scares me. But
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that. I was like, I remember reading something about it, but then I was like, maybe I'm making this up. So I looked it up, and he said last week that that upon his return, he'll be the starting shortstop for the rest of the season once he returns. But sorry.
No, that's wow. Okay,
but yeah,
I had not heard that, so I missed that. But that is not if I was the manager, that is not the decision I would make.
I agree with you. I'm with you on that. I mean, I know it's a position of need, but do you really want to sacrifice, busting his arm up even more?
Right. And, getting back to Kike, I thought he'd be fine. And at the beginning of the season, everybody was, oh, he's not good. I'm like, relax, he'll be fine. No, I'll take the beating here on that one. I was
on the same train. I didn't think he'd be nearly this bad.
Oh, I thought of late, he's been brutal. Okay. I mean, just absolutely brutal, which, really surprised me. But like I said, I'll take the beating on that one. But good heavens, do not put that man's arm at risk, because if he hurts himself, essentially because the Sox don't have another option at shortstop. If you thought the fan base was crazy about losing him just before the start of the season, at the last minute, basically, imagine what this is going to do. You think Twitter will go nuclear?
Imagine and trying to get like that last playoff spot too. Imagine if they're in a run and then he goes down with like 15, 20 games left. Oh my God.
I think everybody's kind of holding their breath and hoping that when Duvall comes back, it gives them the power bat from the right side, because they're left heavy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that's part of the thing that's killing them, is that they don't have a right-handed bat behind either a power hitting right-handed bat behind like Devers. Okay. And he would be the guy. I mean, he demonstrated he had. The good news is, since he's been playing for the WooSox, he's already crushed a couple of home runs. Okay, so he hasn't lost his home run stroke, which it was what the Red Sox absolutely need right now. Is they need somebody up there and mash the ball. On Casas, I'm a little leery about sending him down. He's getting on base, but we need him to make he needs to make contact. When he's on, he goes pole to pole. All fields, has the ability to take and drive the ball any place on the field. He hasn't been aggressive. He's been too passive. And I don't know what.
No, I can agree with that.
It's like, I saw a stat the other day that said something like, when he swings at the first pitch, he's hitting like 276, and when he's not, he's like, below the Mendoza line. So, that should tell him something. If I'm a little bit more aggressive, maybe I'll get him to fall in, and because right now they can play him straight up, and they can kind of guess, and if he they kind of pitch him on the edges. They know he's going to be patient. He's not going to try to swing. So they're going to try to play that game. But yeah, he needs to get aggressive and soon, because that's another weakness in the lineup. And Turner is not the answer long term at first base. He won't hurt you, but let's face it, he's what, 37?
I think he's 38.
38. Okay. 38 years old. That should tell you everything, right? And he's playing out of position, but he's a good athlete, and he's a grinder, so he'll go out there and do what you want him to do. Hey, they had him at second base for a while today. So
speaking of him, he's probably, without Duvall, he's probably our best power hitter, and he's not even that guy anymore.
Right, exactly.
From the right side, not overall, but from the right side.
No, from the right side. He cranked one today.
Yeah.
So he can do it. But he'll be better with somebody with a Duvall behind him, as will Devers. It'll take some of the pressure off of Devers. That's the other piece.
Yeah, because Devers is in a small slump himself right now.
Yeah.
And then what was it? I think I read he was 1 for 21 against the Rays. In his last 21 at bats, and it's crazy. I think his only hit was a home run against them. So he struggles against the Rays, and that's a team that we're going to eventually have to play if we're making a push for it. One thing I am worried about, though, is the fan base overall, because all I hear is, the Red Sox suck, we're losing, we're terrible, we're this. I don't know what their expectations were from the beginning of the season, but I know DC and I, when we did, the first couple episodes, we were talking wild card spot. We're 5 games back of the wild card spot right now. We weren't talking division winners. We weren't talking American League, best record. We were talking wild card spot. We're still in the hunt for the wild card spot. Could we be closer? Yeah. A couple things go our way. We could have that wild card spot now. But it's only beginning of June. And my expectations to begin of the season was a wild card spot. So I don't understand. I hate hearing, we are X amount of games out of first place. So I never thought we were being first place. I never thought we'd be in last place either. But I hate hearing all this all the time. People sitting there saying, how terrible we are, and we'll just give it up. I thought this was going to be a transition year. We were going to be slightly competitive, wild card spot, and we brought people in to hold the fort over until we get a Cedeno Rafaela or Marcelo Meyer, Nick York, till we get some of those younger people up that will be the future of our organization.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Red Sox fan base, I'm not going to do myself any favors by saying this, but sometimes I truly can't stand a lot of Red Sox Nation. I mean, I'm 32, so I'm not that old, but I was a fan, 2004. I watched 2003, as a 13-year-old, really upset, when Aaron Boone, killed my dreams. But I feel like there's a lot of fans, especially on Twitter. I feel like it's a lot of, younger crowd. And when I say, I know, like I said, I'm not this old guy. I'm only in my 30s, but, like the younger 20s that weren't really, they were too young to really, understand that the Red Sox weren't always, good. The Red Sox weren't always putting the best product out in the field. So, I mean, if you have 4 championships in less than 20 years, that kind of spoils you a little bit. So it does get frustrating. Obviously, I went into this season, I think I had them projected pretty positive, maybe a little too high, but I had them at 91 or 92 wins, if all things went well.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't expecting first place. We playing a gauntlet of a division. I think our fan base is very spoiled overall. I think they're very fickle, but yeah, I mean, it annoys the hell out of me too. Sometimes you jump on Twitter, you see you'll see one person make a comment, it's just like, dude, it's the first inning. Like, they give up a hit. You know what I mean? It's not the end of the world. We've all seen some crazy stuff. We all saw 2004. I mean, that series with the Yankees. When you see something like that, anything can happen. Yeah, we're not playing the best right now, but I think we could go on a crazy 25-game stretch, get ourselves right back into it. But I also think we could, crap the bed a little bit too and put ourselves in even more of a hole. But that's what I love about baseball, and I just wish some of our fans would just enjoy the game for what it is. It's a hard game, and just enjoy it. You're not going to win every single one. If you did, it wouldn't be fun. You know what I mean? So
True.
That's that's just my 2 cents.
George?
Yeah, I had him. I think I look back, but I think I had him at 88 wins. I thought they could easily play. I think they could definitely make the wild card. One of the last spots in. Yeah, I felt that they had shaken up the clubhouse enough to do that. I felt that they had definitely taken the back end of the bullpen and squared it away. And for all intents and purposes, with everything going on, with Martin and Jansen at the end, you're in good shape. They've Bernardino's kind of stepped up and been, maybe gets his promotion to the back end, but they're still, Rodriguez is hurt again. Who knows? But the back end is better because you've got 2 guys who know their role. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Schreiber comes back, he knows his role. Schreiber in the 7th, Martin in the 8th, Jansen in the 9th. Have a nice day. That's a pretty good group of guys that you can mess around with opposing batters' heads. Yeah, I mean, I'm a couple of days older than you are, DC. But, yeah, and the Red Sox fans have been spoiled. Let me tell you, there were some years that they just were absolutely horrible. They didn't show up. On the whole, I think that there's too much expected. You play in the AL East. That's a meat grinder. I mean, the Toronto Blue Jays, did you have them barely being just above the Sox with that lineup?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, good grief.
I think I picked them to win the division, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at that lineup and you go, yeah, they're dangerous, and they finally have a little bit of pitching, and
the Manoah change, turns it around. They're going to be a problem.
They are, but for right now, they're kind of going through the same situation the Sox are. Baltimore, they've been amazing. I mean, the Rays aside, Baltimore's been amazing, and the Yankees could come back to earth a little bit. I'm not so sold on whether or not they're as strong as one would think. They're going to be a good team, but I don't think they're as strong as they've shown lately. But Baltimore, wow, talk about a young team. But yeah, you're playing a meat grinder. So for you to be a 500 team in this division, that kind of gets some respect, because it very easily could be what it has been the last couple of seasons, and it's reversed. Instead of being 30-30, you could very well be 20-40.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then, that's a different conversation. But yeah, 30-30 at this stage of the season, I'll take it.
Yeah, Baltimore is looking really amazing. And just think, in a couple years, that young core could be our young core. I would love to do an episode, you guys, with, projected like a 2025, 2026 lineup of, of what the Red Sox could look like by then.
Yeah.
Let's need some time to research that up, though. I want to make sure
Oh, no.
I'm up on my
fine.
stats.
Here's a quick question I seen on Twitter. How opposed would you guys be with Sale? Say he doesn't need surgery, he just needs some time to rest. How opposed would you guys be to put him to the bullpen for the rest of the season?
It may be the smart thing to do, Ritt. I wrote this in my Sunday column for my Sunday coffee notes. We may have seen the best what Chris Sale's going to be. He may have flashes of brilliance, but given the structure and how his arm is holding up and his body type, maybe he does belong in the bullpen. And maybe he's one of the maybe he and Martin are the bridges to Jansen. The problem is that's a nice problem to have, and if he can fulfill the role, it'll be awesome. It may actually prolong his career, because instead of trying to get 30 starts in 5 innings and 150 innings out of the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're only trying to maybe get 60 to 80 innings out of the guy, right?
Yeah.
Does that work? The problem is, at least it's just a gaping hole in the starting rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because they count on him to do something. Okay, and given the failure of Kluber and the inconsistency of Pivetta, those two guys are sitting in the bullpen, and now you've left with 3 very young pitchers in Whitlock, Houck, and Bayo, trying to carry the club, and you're hoping that Paxton is on the path to success again, and God forbid he doesn't have a Chris Sale moment. So that may not be the end of the world. And if it keeps him on the field and it doesn't destroy his arm, a Chris Sale that can give you 1 inning is better than a Chris Sale on the IL any day.
I always like the thought of Chris Sale going into a closer role.
Maybe next year or the year after. As he ages, maybe he is your closer for a while. Jansen's your bridge. He's got to get used to the idea. We all know pitchers who have done it. DC,
I know you're really high and huge on Chris Sale. What were your thoughts be about moving him to the bullpen?
Yeah, I mean, if it would keep him on the field, I'd be all for it. Obviously, I'd like for him to stay healthy and be the starting pitcher that we signed him to that extension to be. But yeah, I mean, if we kept him on the field and it helped us produce some wins, I'm obviously all for it. Yeah, and I agree. I think we've had these conversations before. I could see Chris Sale being the closer, whether it's next year or the year after. I mean, he has the velocity, and he can come in for 1 inning. I think it'd be a lot less wear on his arm, obviously, bring down the innings for each year. But yeah, I'd be all for it. Like I said, obviously I want him pitching, in the starting rotation. I want him to be that guy that we're used to. but I think those days, of longevity is, behind us. So I think, it'd be pretty cool to see him as a closer, at some point.
After our GM episode we had, I was sitting there and going through and looking, and someone came to my mind who is arbitration eligible. What would you guys think if we would sit there and move Sale to the bullpen and trade for Shane Bieber of the Indians?
I'd be all for it. I'd just be worrying about the package we'd have to give up. But yeah, I mean, he's a stud.
He'd be a good pickup for us, a great pickup. The package would bother me, and then I don't know. There's something in the back of my mind that something may not be right. Whether it's in the clubhouse or not, I just don't know. I just have to, and I'm worried about it. There's something kind of bizarre that the Guardians would give up on him.
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on it. I'm just something in the back of my head says, yeah, be careful. I mean, he'd be, obviously he's a good young pitcher, and I'll take any of those guys all day long. But what are you giving up, and what are you really getting? I think that would be my cautiously optimistic would be the best way to put it in management talk.
Well, speaking of the Guardians, we're coming up on a 2-game series. We got Paxton versus Bieber, and then we got to be determined from us and BB. So, real quick, George, what are you thinking with the series? Are we splitting it? We sweeping it, or are we getting swept?
I think we split it, to be honest with you. Cleveland's has had its issues as well. So they're not, coming in, hot as they were last year. I think we stand a chance, to at least take one, probably 2 games in the series. I honestly believe that maybe after the disaster at home, going on the road, it's time to prove yourself again. Then come Friday, we go down to the Bronx. So, yeah, I think we can win this series. As I said, the Indians are not Indians. I knew I'd say it eventually. The Guardians are not the team that they were last year at this point. So I think it's a good chance you can sneak up on them and, have your way.
DC, what about you?
I think we split. I could see us giving the first one up. I think obviously Bieber's a hell of a pitcher, and we're kind of scuffling a little bit as far as offensive wise. But I think we take game 2. But yeah, I'm excited to see Paxton. He didn't have too bad of a start last one. He's kind of been on a nice little roll. See if he can get back in more of a groove, coming back from the injury. And then Bibby, he's nobody to sleep on either. I know I picked them to take the Sox to beat them when he pitches, but I think up until his last start, he was on a 3-game stint where he had 3 straight quality starts, and last thing he had like 5 innings pitched and 3 earned runs. So I mean, he was on his way of getting another one, but 3.20 ERA. He can strike you out 6 or 7 a game, so he's no slouch either. So I think we do come out firing. We just got embarrassed at home. So not only by the Rays but the Reds, and they're not that great of a team. So I think we come out, with the fire on our ass, and hopefully some runs. It's kind of fun when we do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit there and feel like an idiot. It's a 3-game series. Sabal pitches game 3. So
you threw me off. I even thought I was sitting here. I was like, oh.
I sit there and I glanced back down and I was like, wait, it's a 3-game series, and Sabal is
all right, 2 out of 3.
Let's say George, 2 out of 3 for you.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll sit
I think
there
we touched the ball up.
I'll say 2 out of 3 also. So, real quick before we end the show, I want to sit there and DC. Would you like to make the big announcement?
I'm gonna let you make the big announcement because you got some enthusiasm tonight, and I'm kind of slouching. And I think it deserves 100% effort. And
well, guys, we sit there and DC and I were talking, and we love George so much. We were reading some of his articles. George started writing pretty much around the same time, he said, as we started the podcast. So we kind of thought like all the worlds were aligning, the stars were right there, the Sox were looking great. So we had made an offer for George to come and join us on the Pesky Podcast, to not only come on the podcast whenever he would like, but also to be our head writer. And George was so gracious to accept the offer to be a part of our brand and help us grow as we will help him grow.
Well, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. As I said, the last time we did this, I love working with you guys. You guys are great. You're knowledgeable fans. You're great guys. It's a lot when we have fun when we do this, and that's what it should be. And I started this. I just as something. I had a feeling I could do it, and I just said, well, I'm just going to go out and pound away and see what happens. I'm having a blast doing it, and even more so coming in and doing, coming on working with you on the podcast and things like that. I'm looking forward to it. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I think that this will be a lot of fun for all, and we'll see what happens. And I think good things. So I'm excited.
DC, what are your thoughts when give George a little talk, a little credit?
Yeah, I was really excited when you let me know that he got back to you, and well, obviously I could see it on my phone because I'm in the group chat, but I think you're the one that told me, or to look at my message or something like that. But yeah, I was really stoked that he joined. Like I said in the last episode when we did the GM thing, George has been a supporter since day one, and like I said, I'm pretty sure he's been our number one supporter. As far as him and Sox Addict and Christina. But he's been there since day one. Fan questions, he's sent them in. He's given the Ritt feedback immediately after episodes have been dropped. And he just always had great things to say. And obviously we've had great conversations together. So I was pretty excited that you accepted to join us, George. I think I never expected to interview anybody that we've interviewed already. I know we haven't been done anything too extravagant or anything, but we started this in February. Josh said you never know what could happen. So, not to sound cliche and pass it on, but I'm excited to see what happens. In our future. I think we can do a lot of cool things. With this podcast, and especially excited to have you on as writing. It's something we've been looking for a while since we started. So excited to have your talent, have your knowledge. You seem like a great dude. In the conversations we've had, and just glad to get get to know you more and grow together with the podcast. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I think I said to Ritt when he talked about it, I said, I've only been at this for 100 days, and I said to my wife, I said, do you believe this? That in 100 days, all this has happened, and it's like no. And the best part is I'm having fun. This is what I started out to do, and I enjoy it. And hey, this is a blast for me. I just like the world is good.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, the guy that got me into podcasting on my old podcast, he continued, and he told me he listened to our last podcast, the GM episode, and him and his wife were listening. And he's like, Ritt, he goes, you're a lot. You sound like a lot more confident now than when I first started, 3 years ago. He goes, you're able to have all the enthusiasm. you're doing really well and stuff. And I just wanted to thank him. His name's Mike Freeland, and the dude was like a mentor to me. And I'd sit there and kind of took DC under my wing. They're sitting there like, dude, let's do this. Actually, when I asked him, I just looked at him. I was like, hey, we should start a Red Sox podcast. Bullshit him straight up. And he's like, he turns around. He's like, yeah, let's do it. So I'm like, okay, I guess we have to do it now because, and here we are, couple months later, like you, and we're having a time of our life. We made some really good friends. We met some really bad ones too. And I think we finally found the other corner in our triangle that will actually fit this time. So, but George, thanks a lot. You're a great guy. And I appreciate it.
No, no, the pleasure's all mine. You guys are awesome. And I think that, I'll bring what I can, and you guys are, already established a great brand, and I'll try to hold that up as well. But yeah, it's fun. And that's what it's all about. Sports is supposed to be fun. Yeah, you can get good days and bad days, but they're supposed to take your mind off of things. So
yeah. So guys, want to wrap up this episode. Thanks everybody for listening. Head on over to our YouTube page, check out not only all of our interviews that we have done here on the Pesky Podcast, but all the interviews I did from when I was doing a pro wrestling podcast. Guys, sit there and follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, Instagram. DC's got TikTok up and running. I have no idea how to do that. But
don't lie to him. It's up, but it's not running yet.
Well,
like I said, I'm about to be 33, so I'm not a young gun anymore. These apps are confusing me a little bit.
I know. So sometimes you just gotta pass off to the kid and let them do it.
I'm not giving it to my 5-year-old. Nope.
Yeah, be careful for the response you get, though.
Yeah.
So, but guys, thanks for sitting there and listening to us. Our next interview, like I said, is we'll be dropping this Friday. It is with WooSox outfielder Narcisco Crook. So, but for DC, for our man George Sutherland, I am the Ritt. See you guys next time on the Pesky Podcast.